Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our available resources for victim of sexual assault webinar. My name is Kimberly Keys. I work at the California Victim Compensation Board. Today I'm joined by two of my colleagues, Jennifer Rocco, who is the Deputy Executive Officer of the Victim Compensation Division, and Marguerite Green, who has been with the board for years and is a subject matter expert in this area. And so I want to run through with you guys today some of the topics that we're going to cover. So today we'll cover who can apply, the required documentation specific to sexual assault applicants, and the compensation benefits available to sexual assault claimants. I would like to introduce Jennifer Rocco, who, like I mentioned, is the Deputy Executive Officer of the Victim Compensation Program. Ms. Rocco joined the CalVCB in July of 2024. She's responsible for overseeing a number of our programs, including the teams who approve applications and pay bills. Jennifer?
Thank you so much, Kimberly, for the introduction, and thank you for everyone who's joining today's webinar. We appreciate you taking time to learn more about our program and the assistance CalVCB can offer victims of sexual assault. April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month, as well as Denim Day, and we want to recognize the strength of survivors and highlight the resources available to them to rebuild their lives. As we know, data shows more than half of all women and nearly 1/3 of all men in the United States have endured sexual violence. California has one of the highest rates of forcible rape cases in the country, according to data analyzed from the FBI. To better address the needs of survivors, CalVCB was honored to take part in a working group on support for survivors of sexual assault, convened by First Partner Jennifer Siebel Newsom. A final report from this working group was released last week, outlining a comprehensive roadmap to improve California's response and resources for survivors of sexual assault. The report identifies gaps and offers recommendations to ensure survivors are met with dignity, respect, and a path to justice. California created the first victim compensation program in the nation, and we're proud to be celebrating our 60th anniversary this year. CalVCB continues its important mission to help victims rebuild and recover following the aftermath of a crime. We offer a range of services, including financial assistance for mental health treatment, medical services, lost wages, relocation, residential security, and more. Last fiscal year, CalVCB approved 2,715 sexual assault applications and paid out over $1.9 million in compensation to sexual assault victims. With your support, we hope more victims will learn about the benefits available through CalVCB and apply for services. It's clear there are more victims than applications. During this presentation, you'll learn more about the CalVCB program, eligibility requirements, and what is needed to apply. We'll also share a link so that you can find services provided by other state agency partners. California has 84 rape crisis centers across the state, funded by the California Office of Emergency Services. In 2023, nearly 50,000 California victims received services from these centers. The centers offer victims support from trained advocates who can accompany them to forensic examinations, interviews with law enforcement, and court proceedings, as well as help them complete a victim compensation application. The Safe at Home program, administered by the California Secretary of State's office, can provide a substitute mailing address so victims can still receive mail while enhancing their safety and privacy. I also want to mention that every April, CalVCB hosts a denim drive in support of Denim Day. If you're in the Sacramento area, we invite you to donate new or gently used denim through April 30th. All donations will support Empower YOLO, a local organization that promotes safe, healthy, and resilient communities and is dedicated to supporting individuals and families affected by sexual assault, domestic violence, stalking, human trafficking, and child abuse. Please contact Public Affairs at victims.ca.gov for more information on how to contribute. Again, I thank you for your time today and appreciate your partnership. I'll turn it back over to Kim and Marguerite for their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate your input there. And so, like Jennifer covered, what CalVCB does, we coordinate actually a lot of different things besides just our victim compensation program. So we also coordinate responses to mass violence events. We run our those erroneously convicted of a crime program and pay those who spent time in prison when they were unjustly convicted. We provide information and resources to victim and victim advocates like yourselves, and we also provide grants to 24 trauma recovery centers across California. The trauma recovery centers provide trauma-informed mental health treatments and case management to the underserved crime victims who may not have been eligible for victim compensation. We use the University of California, San Francisco model to award those grants through a competitive application process, and people served by the model actually report substantial improvement to both their health and well-being. We administer the 2-year grants in the spring, so we just in our most recent board meeting approved the new grants, and they will begin on July the 1st. So the way an application is dealt with once it is submitted by an applicant or by a victim advocate. When it's submitted, it's reviewed in one of 2 ways. So it can go to our joint powers offices or to the CalVCB headquarters. So CalVCB actually contracts with 16 of the 58 counties in California to provide victim services and benefits to those eligible applicants. The contracts are generally within the county district attorney's offices, and they're known as the CalVCB joint power offices. The counties where they're currently located are on your screen. So it's Alameda, Butte, Los Angeles City and Los Angeles County, Orange, Placer, Riverside, Sacramento, San Diego, San Francisco, San Joaquin, San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, which has 2 offices, Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, and Shasta. Those with asterisks actually work with the neighboring counties to assist with victim services. They also provide a network of claims specialists who work with the local victim advocates. In total, our JP offices actually serve 37 of the 58 counties in California, and due to their proximity to the respective DA's offices, the contracted staff has access to crime reports and other information that can help verify a crime. Approximately 60% of all applications and bills are processed through the JP offices and the contracted county offices. For the counties who are not directly affiliated with a CalVCB contracted county, the applications and bills are submitted directly to CalVCB's headquarters in Sacramento for processing. In addition to the many services that CalVCB provides, we also coordinate with other state agencies to offer services and support. In January of 2020, our executive officer, Linda Gledhill, actually launched the Victim Services State Agency Coordination Council. Its goals include leveraging resources to ensure greater accessibility to services and resources for crime victims and their families. It establishes comprehensive centralized platforms of information about victim services and the financial assistance available to them. And it also helps to reduce the barriers to allow more crime victims to access services. If you actually scan the QR code that's on your screen right now, it'll take you to a website with information from the other agencies. And then just of note, specifically for sexual assault victims, so Cal OES provides funding to 84 rape crisis centers in California, which Jennifer had mentioned. And then the California Secretary of State also offers the Safe at Home program, which can provide a substitute mailing address so victims can actually receive mail, but keeping them safe and private. I'm going to turn it over to Marguerite, who will handle the majority of our presentation specific to our sexual assault compensation. Marguerite?
Okay, there we go. I'm off mute. So yes, my name is Marguerite Green, and I've been with California Victims Compensation since 2007. So I will be covering the rest of the kind of technical part of the presentation. So right here, we're on the application availability. Right now, our applications are available in, I think it's like 18 languages. And as you can see, a lot of the languages are here covered, that we covered are right here on the screen. So if you have an application, if you do an application online, they can be downloaded in these various languages. So with that, we also offer translations and interpreters too as well. So if a claimant has to call in and they speak the language and they're needing someone to translate, that is also available when they call into our customer service line. That is also something that we will do for them as well, as well as having the applications in the respective language. Next slide for me, please. So with having authorized representatives, as advocates, you guys are allowed to help with the application process, with the appeal process, and advocates are responsible for making sure they gather all of the information, including crime reports, bills, as it says, relocation forms, and any necessary information that one of the analysts will need to actually take care of that application or to handle any bills that come in. CalVCB will stay in contact with the applicant. So we will stay in contact with the applicant as well as the advocate. So if the advocate is an actual authorized representative, we will send information to the advocate as well as the claimant to make sure everybody has all of the necessary documentation and things to saying what we need to continue on with the application or with the bill process. And any person can act as a representative. So you can have a family member, an advocate, a friend, but these are the ones who cannot. A licensed medical or mental health provider who has provided treatment to the applicant, they cannot be a representative on a claim because it's kind of a two-part thing. So they would not be allowed to be an applicant. But anybody else, advocates out there in the counties, a friend, a family member, a social worker, they can all act as an authorized representative on any application that is submitted to CalVCB. The next slide. Eligibility. So once a person comes through the program and they are eligible for the program, there we do cover 70,000 is our max benefit for every application. Now, not everything is paid directly up to $70,000. There's different things that are paid out a little bit differently. But in order to be eligible, you have to be directly related to the crime, not reimbursed by another source, not on parole, probation, or post-release. And what that means is if a person is released from prison and they're still on probation or felony parole, we would not be able to pay for any things like their application could be allowed. However, we would not be able to pay any bills on that application until they're no longer on parole, probation, or on the post-release program. And we do not cover property loss. So a lot of times we'll have people submit things, or my car windows were busted out, or they stole my wallet. Those types of things are not covered. It has to be something that is physically related to a person, a direct threat, or things like that. Next. So who may be eligible? A direct victim, they're the individual who sustains the injury, the threat of injury, or death as a result of a qualifying crime. So if you're threatened or you got injuries from the crime or death resulted, then yes, you would be eligible. A derivative victim is basically an immediate family member, someone who may have witnessed the crime, or you may have been living with the person at the time of the crime. Then they would also be eligible to be a derivative victim to the direct victim. So qualifying the injury. So basically it's just saying that you have to have had a physical injury or a threat of injury. So if someone is threatening you, they keep coming to your home, or they see you out in public and threats are being made and you're in fear for your life, that would make you qualified as a victim. So Also says here, a person in sight of a person is brandishing a weapon or reasonably felt threatened for his or own safety. That just means that if you are in a vicinity and someone that you're in an argument with, or just you don't even know the person, but you see that they have a weapon or they brandish that weapon, that is still considered a threat of an injury. So you would be qualified for the crime. And verbal threats do count. If someone is threatening to, like I said, to come and beat you up or say they're going to kill you, or that's also considered qualifying for a threat of an injury. Emotional injury, a lot of times we see that in DV cases. And so it's just where there's emotional trauma that's happening from one person to another. And a lot, like I said, a lot of times that's in our DV cases that we find that we have a lot of the emotional injuries and trauma to victims, and also death. No matter how it was caused, if the death was considered to be a crime, then it would qualify you for the program. Natural causes and things like that we do not cover, but if the death was a result of a qualifying crime, then yes, we would cover that as a qualifying injury. So for our eligibility requirements, we require that all applications are submitted to CalVCB within 7 years of the incident. So if the incident happened in 2022, 7 years would take you to 2029. And also, if you are a minor when the crime happens, you have up until your 28th birthday to actually come and apply for CalVCB on your own. Even if it happened when you were a small child, like 9, 10, it doesn't matter. As long as you apply by your 28th birthday, you are still eligible for the program. Next slide. So eligibility requirements, you have to be a resident of California or active duty here stationed in California, victim of the crime in California, or if you're from another state, but the crime still happened here in California, you would still be covered for that crime. And that takes us under the non-California resident. So if you're not from California, but the crime happened here, we can still cover you. If you are a California resident and the crime happens in another state or country, you would have to apply for their program first. And most states, well, actually all states, including Guam, Puerto Rico, and there's one other one. I can't think of the other place, but one of our other U.S. territories, they all have the program. So if you're in any of those places, you would apply for the program there first and then apply for California. So if their program denied you or their program don't have enough resources to cover all of your bills, then once you've exhausted all of their claim, then you can apply for California, and then we can also pick up and help you here in California if you are a California resident and it happened in another state. And you do not have to be a U.S. citizen to acquire ability. So if you're not a complete U.S. citizen, you still can apply for CalVCB and become eligible based off the crime. Next slide. So a good cause for a late application. Looking at any application that was submitted past that 7-year mark, we're going to look at whether or not you're preparing to testify during the prosecution or in the punishment of the person accused or convicted of the crime, during the apprehension, prosecution, or punishment of the offender, or when the person convicted of the crime is scheduled for a parole hearing or release from incarceration. So if you have an applicant that did not apply within that 7-year time frame, or it was after their 28th birthday, I would still say send in your application and put your good cause reason down there, and then let us determine whether or not it can be allowed or not. Don't just think, oh, because I didn't do it by this time frame here, late cause reason and all information that you can get to put with it, still submit it and let us tell you whether or not it would qualify, because you could just need an extra little piece to get it qualified. But I would still recommend sending in and let us make that determination for you, and you just not think that you're not eligible for the program. Next slide. So types of qualifying crimes. Of course, we are here talking about sexual assault, but outside of sexual assault, we cover all the qualifying crimes that you see on the screen. Vehicle DUIs, hit and run, domestic violence, human trafficking, assault and battery, burglary, and robbery. Now, with burglary and robbery, you have to be in the home when it occurs, because we have had people that will submit an application because their house was burglarized, but they were not at home. So you would have to be at home at the time, and a threat was like intimate to you at that time. So if you were not at home when that happened, then it would not be a qualifying crime. So I just wanted to clarify that, because we do have a lot of people that sit it in for burglary and robbery, not understanding that they had to be at home at the time of the incident. But we have stalking and bullying, cyber crimes, child endangerment, and terrorist threats. So, and then there's other things. Again, like I said, you can submit it and let us tell you yes or no if you're not sure if it qualifies as a crime, if it's outside of this area here. But you can always, again, submit it and let us look at the crime documentation to see if you would qualify for CalVCB's program. Next slide. Sexual assault. It is a broad term, and it can cover a multitude of things. So we have aggravated sexual assault of a child, child molestation, incest, lewd and lascivious acts upon a child, oral copulation, sexual battery, or unlawful sexual intercourse. Now, one of the things we took off because I was just going to tell them I was just going to talk about it, is just because it's your partner who did it, is still a qualifying crime. It doesn't matter if it was your husband or your significant other. It will still be considered a crime if they did anything that was against your will. If you didn't say yes to it or you didn't consent to it, it is still considered a sexual assault. So keep in mind, just because it's your husband, that you can still say no. And if it happens, it's still considered to be a sexual assault crime. So just to you guys understand that sexual partners, your husbands and partners do fall into the same category for sexual assault. So acceptable documentation. We would like the crime report, but if you did not file a crime report because of fear, and that does happen when it comes to cases like DV, sexual assault, sometimes they don't file crime reports. CalVCB will not deny you based off of you not filing a crime report, because we can use any of these other things as well, like your mental or your medical or mental health records. If you were seeing a counselor and you told it to the counselor and then they can write something up for you, that would work. There's documentation from a sexual assault counselor. You may have went to go see a counselor that actually just deals in that. That would help as well to be acceptable documentation. A Title IX, right? That's for college campuses, because we do know that that's the report that they take. So those are also usable for us here at CalVCB. A restraining order, an EPO, or if there's a credible witness that could sign like an affidavit to say that, yes, I was a witness to this, and yes, I seen this, and they signed under penalty of perjury, then we could accept those as well for us to use as acceptable crime documentation. Covered benefits. So all of these things here are covered under CalVCB: your medical, dental, counseling sessions, relocation, residential security, funeral, burial, income loss, and crime scene cleanup. And I know a lot of people are asking or might say, well, what does funeral burial have to do with sexual assault? Well, because a person in the commission of being sexually assaulted, they could actually die, and the family could still come to the program and apply for funeral burial benefits if they do not have the resources to cover that their burial. We will still cover the funeral burial on a sexual assault case if it resulted in someone losing their life behind the actual incident. So that's why that's even on there. And these are also things that we cover outside of sexual assault, but within different crimes and things like that. So CalVCB is the pair of last resort, right? Yes, we will reimburse up to 70,000, but we also say that, you know, there's other resources that we have to look to, and I'll cover that in another slide first before we can cover. If you guys do have GoFundMe's or your applicants have GoFundMe's, as long as the GoFundMe's does not specify a certain thing, then we cannot use that as a reimbursement source. But if the GoFundMe says for funeral, then you would have to use it. We would have to use that money as a funeral burial resource. So we would deduct that before we could pay you anything because you specifically said it was for funeral burial. So if the GoFundMe's are general, then we cannot use that as a reimbursement source. Next. So complementary and alternative medicine, we call these our CAM sessions. These include a number of they're non-medical treatments that fall outside of just your general traditional medicine. The complementary medicine refers to healing practices, and there are certain things that we do cover under CAM. It's like the chiropractic treatment, holistic medicine, hypotherapy, music therapy, and those types of things. So, but alternative, it just differs from that. It's just like a different type of medicine that's not used as, you know, just for one form, but it complements to another and it a substitute for like traditional types of treatments. So instead of just regular mental health sessions, you may do music therapy or something like that, and those would be actually covered um, under our program. Next. Oh, okay. Well, this slide does have it on there. I'm sorry. So these are some of the things that we would cover. Well, like I said, chiropractic, holistic medicine, hypnotherapy, music therapy, and neuropathy medicine. Some of these words today in my brain are not functioning right. But those are some of the, again, the things that we cover. Now, on to relocation. For the relocation expenses, we cover up to $3,418, and that would cover your rent deposit. If a security deposit, pet deposit, or both is required for relocation, CalVC must be named as the recipient and receive the funds upon termination of the victim's rental agreement. Now, I wanted to really focus on that one because that is a big thing. So if we were to pay your deposit um, and everything directly to the landlord and you move, they are required to give us back your deposit, the security deposit that we paid. It is not to go back to the victim, it's to come back to CalVCB. And so if by some chance this happens and we don't get it back and then they have to reapply for another relocation, that would be deducted from the what we could pay because we did not get that back the first time around. So just keep that in mind when you're helping your applicants out there for the relocation part of it. Just note that this is something that we really try to adhere to for the deposit, the return of the deposit. But for relocation expenses, we cover the rental of the moving truck, utilities, but it's only for the connection fees. We do not pay for any outstanding bills that you had at your previous location. It's only for you to set up, like the setup costs and the connection fees for the new location. We don't pay the old bills. Temporary storage, and then there's other things that we will look at because if it's like a thing where they have to flee quickly because the incident happened right then and there, and they need to leave right then and there, we could cover food, we can cover hotel rental and things like that because they left quickly. So there's a lot of different things that we can cover in there. So send in all the receipts that you have. And again, let us tell you what we can pay and what we cannot pay. Next slide. Relocation required documents. We do need the verification form that we send you guys that will be sent out to the applicants. That has to be signed and dated and filled out. We need either a law enforcement verification or a mental health provider to verify why they need to relocate. What's the reasoning? Is it a safety issue? Is it a mental health issue? We just need one of those to tell us why they need to relocate. The expense verification form has to be filled out completely. We need the rental agreement or lease agreement from the landlord. If we are paying the provider directly, then they would need to submit a W-9 directly to us so we can add them to our system in order to cut them a check. Again, the receipts for all your moving related expenses, they all need to be submitted. And these are the things that we need in order for us to go forward. If we don't have the expense verification or the verification of law enforcement or mental health, it will definitely hold up their payment on relocation or us being able to pay those bills. So please keep that in mind. Income loss eligibility. A direct victim is definitely if they were employed at the time of the crime, then they are eligible for up to $70,000, which is the max benefit for income loss or 5 years unless permanently disabled. So we'll cover up to it's like 5 years, and if you max out your benefits within that 5 years, that is possible. But if you're permanently disabled, it will continue. The payments will continue until we've reached the 70,000. At that point, then that will be, all of the money that's available. For the adult derivative, the only time they are eligible is like for the parent or legal guardian of a minor, but the minor would have had to be hospitalized or deceased. That's the only time we can cover income loss for an adult derivative, is if they are the parent of the child and the child would have had to be hospitalized, and they would have had to be at the hospital with that child during that time frame, and or if they were to pass away. Those are the only times that we will cover income loss for an adult derivative. Next slide. So for support loss, that is a 70,000 share benefit. So if you have multiple kids, then that, they would share in that $170,000 benefit. Now, again, the victim would have had to be employed at the time of the crime, and they were the children or the spouse was actually, they were legally dependent on the deceased victim's income to support. And who was eligible for this? A spouse, a child, or incompetent adult. Those are the people that would be available, that would be eligible for support loss. And again, they would have to be legally responsible. So when it's a child and the mother and father are not married, we will ask for like child support orders and things like that to show that that they were dependent on the deceased victim's income. Residential security. We will cover up to $1,000 on residential security for a victim. And for residential security, we will cover like alarms, keypads, cameras, motion detector, the cost to install them, to monitor the cost. We'll put on bars on windows if you own the home. We could do security doors. We replace locks and windows. And all you would have to do is submit the contract and all the receipts for documentation. We don't require that they do an eligibility thing now to show like why they need the residential security. But if they feel like, the person knew where they lived at or the crime happened in their home, we will definitely pay for residential security up to $1,000 max. And after the $1,000 max, then that ends what else we could pay for residential security. Reimbursement and recovery sources. So again, CalVCB is a pair of last resort. So these are just some of the things that I was saying earlier. You would have to use your life insurance, if workers' comp, civil suits. Now, let me just focus on workers' comp really quickly. Workers' compensation is a little bit different. It used to be where we could we can step in. So if workers' comp didn't look like it covered everything, we could step in and pay the rest. But now it's not the case with workers' compensation. There is that cannot happen because workers' compensation is considered workers' compensation paying them what they are supposed to receive for that time off of work. So workers' compensation is the only one that we will not step in and be able to pay whatever's left over or what they feel they're missing because workers' compensation is considered payment in full. But as far as like life insurances, civil suits, and trust accounts, death benefits, and all of that, we can pay the difference. So, for instance, if a person was working and now they're not, but they were getting disability, but their disability is still not covering the whole amount, then what we do is we take and we minus out disability from what our calculations are, and anything that you receive, we will minus out as reimbursement source, and whatever is left over, we will send you a check for. So that's how it works for everything else outside of workers' compensation. Even for vehicle insurance, um, whatever it don't all the way covered and you have more bills than what you receive from the vehicle insurance, then we could step in and finish paying. So again, it works that way for all things except for workers' comp. Workers' comp is considered paid in full when it's paid out by the employer. So how to apply? You can create an online application. We still take paper applications, but your online application is directly, you could directly submit the application online and the bills online through your portal. Um, you would upload any bills and documents in the portal. Um, they can view their application and the reimbursement statuses of their bills and view correspondence. Now, as a advocate, if you're an advocate on the application, you will have the same thing. You can file the application for the claimant directly. You can upload bills on on your portal, and you will be able to see, certain things as well, just like the applicant can see. So it gives you both the benefit of, you being able to help them to do the application online and submit it directly to have access to it, but then they would also have access to their portal to upload things as well. So that's how you would apply for um, how you can apply for CalVCB online. And again, we do take paper applications, so you can download the applications online, print them out, and submit them directly to us. You can download and mail them or fax them. You can call to request an application from our, I think it's our customer service line, and I don't have that number. That should be in here somewhere later on down the frame. But you could call our customer service number, and they can send out applications or tell you how to upload them. And again, you could work directly with an advocate out there in the counties. They said the JP offices, when you go into the JP offices, they have advocates that are out there directly that will work with our applicants. And there's different organizations around the community and part of our TRC counties that will work with our applicants as advocates that will help them to apply for the program and get all the information they need submitted. So now appeals. If we were to deny something, like if an application was denied for not having a crime, not having all the crime documentation that we needed them to submit, whether they were sending in their mental health records, medical records, we will ask you for them. We send out 30-day letters to the applicants, and we'll send it to the advocates that are on there as well. And we'll request these things. If we don't get them within the time frame, they will be denied, just as bills will be denied. But an applicant has 45 days to from the date of the letter that's sent out to them to file an appeal. They can use the appeals form that we include in the denial letter, or they can simply write a letter do an email saying that they're requesting an appeal and upload any documentation that they have that would substantiate their, why they are, doing the appeal, and just submit that to CalVCB. And then those things will be looked at by our appeals team. And I think that's it for me. And now I'll turn it back over to Kim.
Thank you, Marguerite. Really appreciate your information there. And so just a few more pieces of information for you guys. So we do have a special page on our website. It's victims.ca.gov/for-advocates, and that is our advocate website. So you can find information there about any upcoming webinars. We don't have any currently scheduled during the summer, but we will have some in the fall. We also have a link to our e-learning. We'll have some video recordings of some of these webinars. And then we also really encourage you to subscribe to our quarterly newsletter. It's called Connecting with CalVCB, and it will provide you information related to everything that we would like for you to know, different updates and information about CalVCB and tools that you can use to hopefully help your job maybe a little bit easier. We also encourage you to help us spread the word. So we have social media toolkits. They offer content for you to share across your social media platforms, which inform your subscribers about CalVCB benefits. It also includes material for specific observances. So we just had a social media toolkit for National Crime Victims' Rights Week, and then we typically have them for Domestic Violence Awareness and Human Trafficking Awareness Month. We also host several donation drives, and so we do have one currently going on. It's our denim drive, which this year is supporting Empower YOLO. Like I said, we have our Connecting with CalVCB newsletter, and so if you want to go ahead, Nadia, forward one more, and we have a QR code. So if you'd like to sign up for that, it's geared for interested readers who work with crime victims in California. It's our way of sharing important program and policy updates and keep you informed about all things CalVCB. We also have, this is our customer service number, which I know Marguerite had mentioned. It's 800-777-9229. And the email address for customer service is info@victims.ca.gov. If you would like to request materials, you can do that through our public affairs department. And so we're at publicaffairs@victims.ca.gov. And at this point, we can take some questions. We have some time. And so if you'd like to use the Q&A chat and type any questions, Marguerite or Jennifer, or maybe I will be able to answer them.
But I had a question. Rent was thing covered under relocation expenses. How long is rent covered for? Is it just to the limit or a specific time?
Are you asking how long is rent covered for on relocation?
Yes.
So we only cover the first month's rent and security deposit. That's it. We don't pay anything outside of that. Yes.
Hi, yes. So what if for the rent and the security deposit, what if a program has helped reimburse part of that payment?
So
would you guys just assist with the other part?
Yes. So if they have like, are you talking about those who are part of like the HUD thing or?
Yes.
Okay, yes. So what it will show is how much they paid. So let's say, for instance, to move in, it was something like $3,600, but they may have paid 1,600 of it. Then we will cover the other 2,000. Whatever the responsibility of the claimant that's left over, we will cover that.
Okay, and you guys would find out by speaking to the landlord, correct?
Yes, we will find out from speaking to the landlord, because we ask questions if on the paperwork, it does ask if they are part of any like special programs like HUD or any of that. It does ask that question on there.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Juliet, I'm not sure if did you raise your hand again or, okay,
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Go for it.
So you, before you mentioned like emotional injury and like domestic violence, So I just want to confirm, like, if there's like a domestic violence case with like emotional abuse or like financial abuse, but nothing like physical, would that still be eligible?
So emotional abuse is definitely eligible. Um, when you say financial abuse can still be emotional abuse. So if it's, as long as it's the emotional part as attached to it, it is still eligible for the program, because emotional abuse is part of what one of the qualifying things.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
And we have time for a few more questions if anybody else has anything related to this presentation. We are happy to answer them. Oh, Keith, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
There, am I still on mute?
Oh, there you go. We can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. No, the chat was still disabled. I just wanted to know if we could also, if we're, how to get the handout from the presentation today?
So let me get back to you. I have to find out what I can send out, and then we will send out whatever applicable documents we can.
Thank you.
And then Dahlia, did you have a question?
Yes. How long can an appeal take?
Oh, wow. So typically we try to say 3 months, but it can be a little bit longer. Right now, they are backlogged, but they are trying to work through certain ones faster than, like the ones that are where people are sending stuff in directly, quickly. Then they're trying to get just a lot of those out where it don't have to have a lot of stuff to it. But if you do it within the 45 days, so let's say for instance, we were looking for crime documentation and you didn't send it in before it was denied. If you send it in and it's uploaded the entire thing, our team, like the analyst that was the person who may have denied it, will see that the documentation came in, and then they can go and submit to appeals and ask for it back if it's just for like crime documentation, and then they can send that back to us. So it's different little things, but for right now, they are kind of behind with appeals. So I can't give you a definite right now if it's something that's really kind of like strenuous, or they have to review it. So if it's something like that, then those can take a little bit longer.
Okay. And if it's taken about a year, can we reach out to CalVCB to see if what's the status, or should we just keep waiting?
No, you can reach out to the customer service, and sometimes they'll have notes in there and sometimes not, but customer service can always send kind of like a message over to kind of get a status and then give you guys an answer.
Thank you.
We do have time for a few more questions if anybody has any. If not, we really appreciate you joining us today. Thank you so much to Jennifer and Marguerite for sharing their information, and thank you guys so much for the questions. If you have any follow-up questions, please feel free to email publicaffairs@victims.ca.gov, and we will get back to you as soon as we can. All right, seeing no other questions, I think we're going to end the recording and end the webinar. So thank you so much for attending.